Hi again, viewers. How are you doing? Hope you are doing well from wherever you are, from wherever you're watching, whether it's in Africa or Europe or in the West. How are you doing? I know the time zone is different, so others could be the morning, others could be good night, others could be, but hope you're doing well from wherever part you are watching from. This is your lady, Honeynyabbs. Back to you again. I remember today, earlier I told you that I was going to talk about something, and this is the topic of loss that I would want to talk about a little, just slightly, just introducing it because today, today marks 28 years since I went through one of a major traumatic event in my life 28 years ago, which I'm going to talk about. I'll give it as an example of the loss that I went through and how it affected me and how I processed it. So, just introducing this topic. It's not a therapy exercise today, it's just as I start talking about these issues, it will be much of awareness that I will be doing. So, welcome. Today, I want to introduce myself. So, my YouTube name is honeynyabbs, and I started this channel just like a week ago. And this is a platform that I think I can be showcasing different things, maybe my life, my family, even my work, or even talks that could be important to people, or even, when I am at work. Sometimes I'm at work from home, sometimes I have to go. So, one by one, I mean, somehow one time I could just show you one of the processes that we go through. But I could start with an introduction today. As you know me, it's from YouTube. My name there is honeynyabbs, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. That's my training. That's a training that I did in my master's program, which took me about 4 years, 3 years of classwork and then about a year of practicum before you could be certified by the university as qualified. And then I am certified as a marriage and family therapist in Kenya. I could do this work anywhere in Kenya, anywhere online, and actually, this is like international. I mean, once you're a therapist, it's just like once you are a doctor or once you're a teacher, you are a teacher. So if maybe you move to a different location, it will be just meeting a few of their requirements, but the training and the skills that you have are still there. So currently, that's the work I do, but I have had a long work history. I did not start mm, my work life by being a therapist. I started it a long time ago, actually, in our years, uh, immediately when we left high school, because we used to go up to Form 6. That is, uh, for some people, they say year 1 to year 11 to 12. Then we had 2 years of high school. And then after that is when you would graduate to go to university. So immediately I finished, I was 18. Immediately the following year, because uh, you could get a job. In fact, you could get a job like a teacher at home because I went back home to stay there in my village. And then I said, if I've been left here because I was just alone with my two younger sisters. My mom and my dad were not there. Of course, they were alive, but they were not there because my mom was not well and my dad used to work out. So that was my time to stay at home with my our two last borns, and maybe and even the others, the two after that, although they were in boarding school. So that year is when I decided, I think I need to get something to do, because of course we were really financially, we needed a lot of finances to do things A, B, C, and D. So I remember I applied to a school, secondary school, and good luck, I was called by the board, and I taught for 1 year. From the age of 18 to 19, I was teaching. I was teaching maths and biology, and it was really, really interesting because maths has always been the subject that I used to love. Even now, I mean, I know so many ladies. Um, I don't know where this thing came from. Like most ladies used to say, I don't like maths. It's hard for me. It's for the boys. I used to hear that. I don't know about nowadays. But for me, I used to find it like it was one of the best subjects because you just needed to learn the formulas. Once you have the formulas, you didn't have to read a lot about it. So it was really good for me and interesting to calculate those formulas and just do your maths and pass. So it was one of the best subjects that I did. I did a science subject. I was teaching maths and biology, and it was really interesting. And I remember that year we took our children to university from that school at home. It was very interesting. But after 1 year, I think I left and joined. I joined a teachers' college, that back home. It's called Kenya Science Teachers College because, of course, I wanted to do science and teach science, where I was for 1 year, although I think I didn't complete. I went through the 2 years, but I never went for the teaching practice because of reasons here and there, and also because I got a job at the bank. So I left. So my working life actually started from the bank. That's when I was 22, 21, 22. I got a job at the bank. It was called the Cooperative Bank of Kenya. That is why I started as a clerk and then moved up a few positions until I was a supervisor. And I worked there for 12 years. Yeah. So actually the story I'm going to tell you today, after I talk about shortly about her losses, will be connected to that because today we commemorate, one of the traumatic events that happened to us. There was a bomb blast. I think the very first bomb blast that happened in Nairobi, Kenya, or just in Kenya, when those days Al Qaeda started bombing countries around the world, embassies around the world. So we were working. I was working. The cooperative bank was next to the American embassy, and that's where I was working. And I was working in a department called Foreign Exchange Department, which was actually next to the entrance that this bomb, this terrorist entered to put a bomb. So, uh, so what happened that day? I think I may not tell you so much about what happened. Uh, uh, God knowing, I had just left the bank like 10 minutes before that bomb blast exploded. I actually used to work in just next to where the bomb blast is, but and fortunately or unfortunately, I remember very well. The staff were on strike. The junior staff were on strike. So we were just at the bank, and some people were not working. I mean, most of the staff were not there because they were not working. So I decided, what am I even doing in this bank? Let me walk out a bit. I go to the next building and talk to a friend of mine there. So after I had just left like 10 minutes, That's when I heard that loud bang of noise. Yeah, it was a very loud bang of noise. I really didn't know it was a bomb blast. And so, because of that, I was just in the next building, not the cooperative bank where I was working. So some people said, let's go and see what's happening. Mhm. But I didn't go. I just stayed back with a friend of mine. I remember a few people who went to check on the what's happening because there were glass windows. So a few of them fell down because the blast came twice. There was the first blast and then the second one. So some people were thrown out. Some people actually lost their lives. A lot of people lost their lives at the cooperative bank, colleagues and friends. I can remember very well people I was employed with. We were in induction course together. I think there were about 8 or 9 who were working in one sector. The building, part of that building, not the cooperative bank, but the next building which the bank had hired fell down and fell on them. And I mean, that was the end of it. You just remember that you talked to them the previous day or just the same day. Some of them, I remember I talked to one of them just the same day. No, the previous day. And just like that, they were gone. So this up to this point, even after the second blast, I actually didn't know it was a bomb blast. We were so confused. The noise was so high. But looking at myself, I was full of blood in my clothes. I didn't even know that had been hurt in my one of my knees. There was a glass that went deep into my knee, my knee, but I didn't feel it actually because of the. So as we were struggling to come out, we came out and then we were pushed into a car and then we were being rushed to one of the national hospitals. It's called Kenyatta National Hospital. I don't know who I was seated with there. I think it's people I didn't know because these were not colleagues. We went, and then when I went, there was a bus stage over there. So we were being told, come in, come in. So I sat there and then I said, no, I'm not in any pain. I'm not feeling any pain. So I don't want to go in. I don't want to go into the hospital. So because people were in a hurry, they just rushed in. The other people, I just sat there at the stage. That stage, I sat there and I think people were just looking at me, I think they had heard there was a bomb or something. I didn't know even at this point that it was a bomb. I sat there, I was so confused because I think the noise just affected my ears and affected my sense of kind of direction. So I sat there, I think over 2 hours, just seated, wondering where I was. But thank God, like after those hours seated, I was just seated and people were walking and looking at me because I was full of blood. Not talking to me much. I think most people, because they are not sure of what to say, they don't talk. But also, actually, I think I was in my own world. So, uh, I just sat there, and then kind of I remembered. I think this is the area where my dad used to live. We used to live in that area next to the hospital. It was called Upper Hill. And a very good friend of mine, my mentor, was also living in that area. That came to my mind. And then I said, okay, yeah, I remember. Then I started walking. I walked up to my mentor's place. This lady who has been a friend of mine even at the moment. I walked up to there. And so when they saw me, she was there with her children. When they saw me, they were like shouting and said, what happened? I told them I don't know what happened. I know there was a lot of noise and I was brought to the hospital, but I refused to enter. I had to come out. So that's when they were telling me actually what is being announced and what happened is that there was a bomb blast. There was a bomb blast at the cooperative bank, but they were aiming at destroying the embassy. the US embassy, which was next to us. So there was a bomb blast. That is when now I got the story. Yeah, and that was around 3:30, 4 in the evening. So by that time, I think my family, my husband had started looking because he was in town. Actually, he had come to see me at the bank, and then he left. So in the that course of 10 minutes, he was still in town. So that's when he had that noise too, and he came back, ran back to look for me, but he never saw me. He never saw me. He stayed around. He never saw me. I think he went looking at the hospitals, the near hospitals. He didn't see me. So they went to a few mortuaries. They didn't see me. And now, I mean, he was also just stranded, still looking around. As I wasn't, I mean, I was also on my own on this other side until I met my friend, my mentor. So that is when now, they said you have to change. We gave you a change of clothes. I removed the clothes I had. And then I told him, please call my husband. We used to have these phones, the house phones. So that's when they called him. I think he was already at home. There were people already in our compound. Yeah, because at this point they were thinking this lady is no more because she used to work at the bank, and we have not heard from her all these hours because that blast was around 10 o'clock, and it went up to I was not I there was no communication between that 10:30 and 3:30. So people were just there coming to say sorry, grieving. The children were there confused. They didn't know anything. So I think this was one of the happiest phones they had. They heard that I was at my mentor's place, this mama. They called, and then my husband came for me. Yeah, that was really one of the events, big events that happened in my life, which was traumatic. But the trauma came after. Yeah, the trauma came after because now after that, I had worked in the bank for 12 years, around 12 years. So a few months, I had three children. Yeah, I had three children. One of them is this one I've come to visit. She was just 10 months old. So a few months later, that was in August the 7th. A few months later, the following year, now we had an incident related to that bomb blast because so many of us, yeah, we were given an option either to resign from the bank or I don't know whether others were sacked. So this was an abrupt event that came to my life because there was a lot of confusion. I think we were applying for medical funds because some of us were hurt even when we didn't go to the hospital. Some of us applied and we had not even been given that amount. But the fact that I did apply, we were put in the list of like, there's most people who were trying to fraud the bank. So we were given that option, particularly me. I don't know about the others. Either to resign or I think almost all of us. It was just an option. It was just like a sacking. You're told now resign. So that's where the trauma started because that meant losing the job that I had done abruptly, and and to many others of my friends. Yeah. So this is the example of a loss that I wanted to talk about today. And as I talk about losses, I'll refer back to this event. Yeah, because this is a loss that I got that I wanted to give an example of. Yeah, that loss of a job because of the bomb blast that we went through. So let's talk losses today. Yeah, losses. Losses are rampant. They are rampant in life. Provided you are in this world, you will come to one loss or another. Some people get more losses than others. I mean, there are so many losses there. A loss is A loss is like not having something that you were already, which you already had. Yeah, the thing is like taken away. Yeah, you do not have access to it anymore. Yeah, it could be happened abruptly, it could have happened in a process, but it's a loss of something. It could be a tangible thing or it could be intangible. By tangible, I mean it could be like you have lost someone, like in death. Yeah, you could lose a partner, you could lose a mother or a father or a sibling or a child. That is tangible. You could lose your car in an accident. You could lose your house, just like in our cases, these people who lost their jobs at the bank after a few years after the bomb blast. So many of us, thank God I did not lose my house because, of course, when you're in the bank, you can get loans and buy houses or cars. So I had taken a loan, but thank God for my husband because once he heard about this situation, he decided he had to stand up. He took up all the payment of that loan and he made sure he repaid it so fast. So I think within less than 10 years, he had cleared that loan. But I know my friends, I know some of my colleagues, because they didn't have an alternative, they had to lose their houses. They had taken houses on mortgage, houses that we were paying very comfortably because the interest rates were low. Uh, but they lost, some of them lost their houses. They were so disillusioned. Most of them, some of them were single parents, not even single parents, they were just parents and they had responsibilities. Yeah, their children were in school. They were taking care of other issues. Yeah, but now they could not. Yeah, I remember a few people, one or two, who passed on a few years, but still in that state of frustration. Yeah, of trying to cope with a loss. So losing a job is a tangible thing. It's you have lost a job, you have lost a house, you've lost a marriage, you have lost a partner. Losing can be tangible or intangible. Even losing a relationship is a very big thing. So many people lost. Some people even died because of that, because they could not cope. So there are many things that you can lose in life. And normally loss is accompanied by grief. Yeah. Grief is the pain that comes after you lose something. Yeah. Let's say you have lost your partner. Yeah. You go through a period of sadness, a big period of sorrow. Yeah. Some people you can even see it in themselves, in their own body. They have headaches. Sometimes, they're so stressed, they can't eat, they can't sleep well. So it comes with a lot of things. Yeah. So when you lose something which you had before, it comes with a lot of grief and it's accompanied later by mourning. Mourning comes, grief is the pain that you feel. Mourning comes now when it is the process of what you have lost. Looking at the process of what you have lost. Yeah. The process you go through is the mourning. Yeah. I have seen people who were so angry after they lost their jobs. Yeah, so angry. They were angry. They could not. It's like their behavior just changed. Yeah, some people, in this, not just in this incident, you find some people just lose it. Yeah, they cannot handle. So, when a loss comes accompanied by that grief, there is a process called mourning that people go through. So this process now is what is important because uh, we are supposed to go through that process, yeah, so that we can be able to adjust to the changes that have come, yeah, and manage them. Yeah, we are supposed to look and go through our laws one by one, mentioning it. What are bylaws? How did it come about? And then so that we can be able to manage and adjust, yeah, to these losses. Yeah, but also loss comes with a lot of things depending on what it is. Like if it's a relationship, if it's let's say it's a relationship, it can come even like with a lot, even if it's, or even a job, it comes with, sometimes you are hit by shame. You feel like, is it me who caused this thing? If I had not participated in this, I would not have lost my job. Yeah. If I have, how come I could not be able to stand and keep this relationship going? Yeah. So there's a lot of grief sometimes that comes with loss, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a job. Yeah. And this grief, yeah, this grief that comes, the sadness that comes, the sorrow that comes, uh, all these things, like for example, you lose a lot of things when you lose something. Yeah, let's take a case of losing a loved one or losing someone. Yeah, just you have lost, you feel the pain and the sadness, but it is a loss for life. Yeah, so now the process, I'm talking about the mourning. You will be mourning your friend. You do not have a friend anymore. Mhm. And maybe if this friend was had a lot of contribution in the family, whether it's financially or socially, you start missing that. Yeah, you start missing the head of a family, the care of the family. You miss even what this person was to you. People lose friends. People lose, they lose what this person was. Yeah, they lose the anchor of their lives. But what I want to say about loss, especially loss of loved ones, it is never the same to everyone. You can lose a spouse, I lose a spouse, but the circumstances or the processing could be different. Because I could have had a spouse who was a friend and who I used to talk to, who used to care for me and our family, a person who respected me. You can lose that in life. Yeah. Some other people can lose a spouse, maybe who was an abuser, a spouse uh, who was an abuser, whether it's emotionally or verbally. So the circumstances are not the same. What this person could be going through, the second person now, yeah, you'd have lost the physical presence of that person, which was important to that person, and you'd have lost the father of their children. Yeah, and the person would remain with this shame. Yeah, the person was abused all their life. The trauma, she now remains with the trauma and even the shame of why was I not able even you know, to make my relationship work. So, I mean, the loss is normally different with other people. From some people, it's a lot because of what they have lost. Some people could actually like, they will lose the father, they will lose the breadwinner, but they will say this at least now I don't have the abuse. Yeah. So you find it is different. So it will always be different. You can empathize, you can put yourself in the shoes of another person, but it's never the same. Yeah. It's never the same. The kind of processing that has to go through. Yeah. That we have to go through. So shame, losses come to us, but dealing with them now, the process of dealing with them, some people somehow you manage, you come out of it, because we find that when you have a lot of support, like let's say family support, maybe your spouse died, and but there were people standing with you. They helped even do a fundraising for your children to go to school. and maybe they helped you, if you had a loan, you find that it becomes easier for you. Yeah. It will not be like the case of another person who does not have this support. So you find this other person goes through a lot of sorrow just because of that. So you find having family and social support, like what I've just talked about, makes it easier for you to grieve. Yeah, because of that support. When you don't have it, it becomes so hard for you. That's why I'm saying it is different the way people process and go through grief. It can never be the same. You can lose your last born. I lose my last born. It is not the same. That child was something to you, something to me, but you have lost being a mother. Okay, that is the common ground. But loss is loss. And when it comes, where the therapists now come in, the therapists come in because some people are not able to manage to go through it. Uh, because when you lose something, losses come with losing your way. Yeah. When you lose something, you lose your friend, you lose your spouse, you lose your house, or whatever you lose. You can lose your pet. Yeah. It is like you have lost your way. You do not know how to maneuver, how to go about it. Yeah. You want somebody to help you through this process. Yeah. And initially, I think, like everyone, it just requires someone to take them through a process. But like for therapy, it takes different times with different people. Some people can get one or two mhm, mm, uh, uh, sessions and then they're okay. But some people will take a long time. So, so the therapists come in because people have lost hope, people are frustrated, people you find I've seen like some family, one parent becomes disoriented and another parent starts drinking, so it causes events in the family that now this person who has been left now has started engaging in other in other behaviors that are even hurting the family, the children. So you find if they have lost a father or if they have lost a mother, they'll also now lose this other person because this person cannot cope with it. So they start engaging in unhealthy behaviors which affect the children. Though therapists come in there, they help people to, you know, therapists do really never advise people on what to do. They talk. We do talk therapy. We take people through the laws, we assess what other losses these people have. We try to bring them together and we do talk therapy to guide people, to help people and guide them towards where a position where they can manage. Yeah. So as therapists, so we will not advise people like do this because you're grieving, do this. No, we do not. We just talk to the person comes to terms with it, and then they are able to move on. So losses are everywhere. Yeah, losses are everywhere. People can even lose. You know, even when you're staying in a house like this, yeah, you can even lose. You know, everything. I mean, a loss is everything. Yeah, somebody can steal your things. You can lose your friendship with that person you have been talking to. Yeah, you can lose your position in society. Yeah, let's say like a husband dies ama your boyfriend moves off and you have already felt comfortable being in this status of being in a relationship. Now the peer pressure comes in, now you have become single. Yeah. And now some of the single ladies, the ones with the partners, no, you feel off. You have lost your status. People lose status with losses. Yeah. You can lose a spouse, you lose your car, you lose your house, still it touches your status in a way. Yeah. So these are the things that we really have to deal with uh, in the process of mourning. And most of the time, sometimes it requires a therapist, because any of those things, any of that process is, it's dealt with like just any other trauma. Yeah. Trauma, we say, is an event that could directly happen to you or could directly happen to the people you know, that, you know, that just startles you and affects you. Yeah. So it is this kind, the trauma, the losses that we go through have to be processed just like any other trauma. So I gave an example of how I lost my job. Yeah. I've not gone so much into details. Yeah. At that time, I was expecting our last one. I was 7 months expecting. Yeah, I had three children. I was going to school. I think maybe that time I was not going to school but I used to do some studies when I was at the bank. Of course, we used to have insurance, a little insurance that used to help us here and there with hospital bills. I lost my status of working. Yeah. I remember after some time when I left the bank, I could go back to the bank most of the time to talk to my friends. I had started doing some hospitality before I left the bank. So I could go and I could feel like selling, some of my items, the cakes that I used to do to them. There was that attachment I still had for a few months. Yeah, it's because I had not moved on, I had not moved on from, that attachment with the bank. But thank God I had something here I was doing. So I used to go talk. Thank God for those friends. They used to open the door, we go, we talk, blah, blah, and all that. But you see, some people get so much attached, like to a place. I remember, although this lady passed on, one of the people who lost her job after this bomb blast, I think she died 2 years after. But I remember she could never release the fact that she had lost her job. She used to be in that bank almost every day. If she gets close to sell, she would go to sell to the people in the bank. If she has food to sell, she was going, just that attachment. Yeah, she did that until the day she passed on, because she could not process. She could not process, although she was not gaining anything really, apart from the few she felt. She kind of, that is how she was dealing with it. Yeah, people deal with the things differently. Although maybe that was not a healthy way, because after a loss and when you're grieving and mourning, a change needs to come in. Yeah, as you process, a change needs to come in, where you come to a point of accepting that I lost this, I lost my job, I lost my, I lost my spouse, I lost my relationship, I lost my money somewhere. And maybe I was engaged in investing somewhere. I lost. A time has to come where you will have to accept. You accept, this happened to me. What do I do from here? And then when you accept that and start making change towards now what you can do, yeah, now to start adjusting, yeah, that is the right way to go. But when you cannot separate yourself from that event, yeah, then it becomes a whole issue of a problem. We say people are not able to function. There are people who cannot function because they have gone through a certain event. Losses actually are traumatic. Yeah, we call it a traumatic event. There are people who are not able to function after they go through a traumatic event. Yeah, and while as after some time, after processing, we are meant to embrace this change and move on. Yeah, and move on. So that's where therapists come in. I'm not saying we just go to see therapists just when a sudden event has happened. There are so many things in life that we need to see therapists about. Yeah, which we really need to know. Yeah, because we came from somewhere, we came from families. I'll talk about this topic one day. Some children are not able to move ahead because they are always blaming their parents. They are always looking back and saying, my parents didn't do this, they didn't do this. Maybe I'll talk about this topic one day because it disturbs a lot of people and they're not able to move on. You find a child looks back, he could be comparing their family with another family, or actually they went through trauma. Their parents were not close to them. Yeah, they were not close to them when they were there. It was a loss. They had that gap of loss, like, where is my mother, where is my father? Or maybe you took your child to a place where he experienced trauma. Yeah, so you find children are not able to move ahead after that. They have a lot of sad feelings. Yeah, they still have a lot of sad feelings. They're still grieving. Now that's the point now. People need to move away from, because we cannot be sorrowful throughout a certain event. Yeah, we cannot be sorrowful forever. Yeah, we cannot be sad forever. Yeah, we will not. We will need to embrace this. This really happened to me. Of course, it is very, very common. The things that happen to us, these losses, losing a job, losing your attachment with your parent, especially when you wanted it, losing friends, losing a marriage. These things, therapists can tell you, they are really very common. They happen everywhere in the world. But of course, when it happens to a person, it remains, it is happening to that person. It means something to that person. It is hurting that person. So at that point, they never see like it's happening to other people. So that's where a therapist come in and talk to them, deal with their situation individually, not comparing it with the other people. Help them to come to a point where they can see that this could have happened to any other person. It was not specifically for them. So losses can be big, can be traumatizing. They are traumatic events. They are in our lives. So I just wanted to bring this and give an example of the loss that I had, where I also lost a job. Took a long time, but what I did also is, thank God I had started my hospitality, so I went back. I went to that line and started training. Went back to work. But this came also because of the support of my husband. He was there. He took care of all the school fees. He took care of all the shopping in the house, even paying the house girl. And now he gave me this chance to thrive. Yeah, to start. You know, he even actually paid some of my fees when I was training uh, in bakery and pastry. Yeah, uh, because I had trained as a chef. I trained as a pastry chef after I left the bank. I did that work. I did lots of catering events and worked in the hotel industry and moved on. But it was a big loss. I mean, because if I had stayed in the bank, I would have been that far. That this was starting again. It was like starting another journey. I lost that. I lost my way. Now I had to find it back and start another journey, you see. So maybe I could have been very far. But it happened. There are a lot of positive things later that I've learned that happened because obviously when I used to work at the bank, those days the banking industry used to be really, really good. Used to get a lot of money, used to get uh, a lot of increments. So sometimes I think like my eyes were closed. Because we could sit in the bank, somebody brings my suits there to sell to us, and you take like two suits. And those days, suits were expensive, clothes were expensive. It's not like nowadays. Actually, we used to buy suits of 7,000 Kenya shillings those days, 28, 30 years ago. Imagine 7,000 Kenya shillings. That is like $70 then. And you could sit in the bank and somebody brings and you like them, and you take them and you keep. So you didn't. My eyes were not open. Like, where else can I look for good clothes and cheap ones? But after that, I went out to the world. I knew I can get these things in a different place and at a cheaper price. At that kind of price, I could get even three later. You know even some foods, I knew there's sometimes I don't have to go to the supermarket. I can go to the market and get some food, but before that my eyes were closed, and I was very comfortable. I don't know why this happened, but I'm glad that change came. And I know that I can be a real hustler. I can be a real survivor when I'm put out there. Yeah. Because I'm able to maneuver now, I can say, what else can I do? I think it was my first learning lesson. But all the same, it was really hurting. It destabilized me. Yeah, I lost my way. I had to. Oh, but thank God. I mean, I was expecting 2 months after I got my baby, so I took this time to nurse my son. Still thinking what else, but that helped. That even nursing the kid helped me because I was at home like for 1 year. Yeah, doing something, and these other kids were young. But of course, it destabilized, and I know sometimes we have not really met many times with my colleagues who left, but I know people were really, really affected. No? They were really, really affected. Some lost, their children could not go to school anymore, to any good schools anymore. They had to start from zero. But I know I've seen most of them nowadays, they're doing very well. I think after some time, God helped most of us. Apart from the people who passed on, people are moving on in life, but the struggle was there. The struggle was there. So, and also, uh, I will be talking to you how we go about therapy. I'll not be giving therapy here, but I do therapy online. So sometimes when people go through the same event, through the same loss like that, you can always have a group therapy of about 10 people. You process through the issue. If you find people who have lost, people who have the same circumstances, and they agree, you can always have a group therapy with them. You go through it, and it is very, very supportive. A group therapy is very, very supportive because these other people get other people to talk to, and they get a social support, and they are able to move on later. And then also they get connections and networking, and they are able to move. So, just to tell you that therapy is important. It's not that cheap, but it helps a lot. And I know in our society right now, people are told if you have lost something, just dust yourself and move on. The moving on is the problem, yeah, because there's nobody there who is going to help you to move on, yeah. They'll be checking, hey, where have you reached? What are you doing? The moving on is normally the problem, and most people do not know how to empathize, how to put themselves in that situation. That's where therapy comes in. So sometimes there is therapy pro bono. If you look around your area, maybe sometimes you might get a group. Like most churches, they can give pro bono, that support, and then you're able to come out of situations and to adjust. So losses are traumatic events. They have to be processed so that somebody can be able to move on, to manage them and adjust and move on, and wait for the next mhm, event. I mean, traumas are always there. So, and they cause a lot. They can cause a lot of shame to people, and but now this shame is where you need to move away from. It stops you there. This is where now you need. If you cannot move from there, if you keep away, now you start keep drawing off from people, This is where you say, if I can afford or if I can look for a place where I can talk to somebody to help me, this is the part where you need to start looking for help. Look for help for your family. When you have your children, your adolescents and your teenagers, or even your adult children. When you have them and they are just you cannot manage, their behaviors or anything, and even their addictions, please, it is always good to see a therapist, because you lose your children when they start engaging in different behaviors, when they start being closer to the peers who sometimes cannot teach them well. But peers are important for your children, yeah. So I'll be getting topics to talk about in this blog, and I hope I have just said something. I was not giving therapy, I was just talking slightly about loss, because today marks 28 years since I left the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, where I used to work. I lost my job later because of this event of the bomb blast, and it affected me. It affected me, but I've grown out of it, and I have become something else. But it was traumatizing. So it was a loss. I just wanted to give you this, and to the families of those who lost their loved ones. Some children grew without their parents. Today, I still give my condolences, yeah, to my former colleagues who are out there. Some maybe, things changed for them completely. We are together. We are still alive. And if, let us just move on. Let us process these things, keep moving on, and God is for us all. Thank you, viewers. Until next time, I will be with you again. You can comment down below. Ask me any question, actually, and I'll be able to answer it. Thank you so much for your time. Subscribe, like, and share.